At last year's E3, Nintendo surprised us by debuting Splatoon, not with a vague teaser or a concept video, but with one of the most exciting playable demos on the show floor. 9 months later, we've finally gotten to go a bit deeper, spending hours spraying ink in both single-player and multiplayer modes. Few would have expected Nintendo to place their stamp on an online shooter, but the company likens Splatoon's peculiarity in the same way that Mario Kart stands apart from serious racing games. The game is lighthearted and full of color, with a design that shifts the focus away from kill counts to allow players of any skill level to jump in and contribute. This is most evident in the main 4-on-4 gameplay mode known as Turf War. Rather than getting the highest kill-death ratio or capturing a flag, your team's goal is to cover the most territory before the timer runs out by shooting colored ink across every surface of the stage floor. Getting kills will certainly slow the other team's progress, but less confident players can avoid the fray and contribute simply by painting forgotten corners and covering the opposing team's colors. At any time, you can look down at the gamepad to see where your team needs the most coverage, and by simply tapping on a teammate's icon, you can launch directly to their location, saving you from having to cross the map when you respawn. The painting mechanic not only changes where you focus your aim, but how you move about the world. Your Inkling can dive into ink of its own color, smoothly swimming through it, using it to hide, dodge, and escape. With enough momentum, you can slickly hop over gaps, and if you paint the walls, you can swim up vertical surfaces to reach higher ground. Conversely, enemy ink latches onto your feet like glue, making it hard to escape if you find yourself in enemy territory. Rather than picking up crates of ammo, you also dive into the ink to refill your weapons. Learning how quickly each weapon empties and developing a rhythmic pattern of filling up helps to keep you from being caught off guard and running dry just when an enemy pops around the corner. If your ink supply is mostly full, you'll also have access to sub-weapons, such as grenade-like splatter bombs, which can cover a wide area with ink. The game also rewards survival with special weapons. Covering areas with ink fills up your special meter, but dying reduces it by half. Once it's full, you can use devastating items like the Killer Whale, which clears out any opponents in its wide path, or a Bubbler Shield that protects you in a close-quarters duel. For more skilled players, Nintendo has also introduced us to ranked battles, which will be rolling out in a somewhat peculiar way. Since there's more emphasis on skill and teamwork, you can't join a ranked battle until your character reaches level 10. Furthermore, the mode will be locked for everyone until Nintendo decides that enough players have earned their stripes, presumably to ensure that early adopters don't get stuck waiting in lobbies. Once things get going, each player will start at a base rank of C-. Victories and defeats will raise or lower your overall rank and determine how you're matched up with other players. The ranked battles we were able to try came in the form of splat zones, which work similar to King of the Hill in other shooters. Instead of covering an entire map, you have to control a small zone of it. If your color covers the zone, a timer starts counting down, and whichever team reaches 0 first wins the match. This focuses battles into much tighter spaces, making kills, cooperation, and positioning far more important. Because of the difference in focus, some weapons feel clearly suited to one mode over another. In Turf Wars, the large rollers can offer an advantage as you can paint wide paths through a map relatively undisturbed, but since the weapon has limited range, it can be tricky to fend off shooters in splat zones. Conversely, the sniper-like Splat Charger, which shoots out a long line of ink, feels rather slow and useless in Turf Wars, but can dominate the field from high ground in splat zones. We got to try 8 weapons in all, including the submachine gun-like Splattershot Jr. and the slower but larger shots of the 52 Gal. Weapons come in set loadouts, so even if a main gun isn't your favorite, you may end up choosing based on a sub-weapon like the Splash Wall that screens you from enemy shots, or a special long-range missile. You can also buy gear like hats and shoes, which can provide extra buffs in addition to sporting your style. While multiplayer is Splatoon's main focus, there is a single-player story mode too. The main goal of each level is to rescue a Zapfish from the villainous Octarians, overcoming enemies and obstacles blocking your path. The first handful of stages essentially function as a tutorial, but there's more emphasis on platforming and maneuverability with unique mechanics, power-ups, and devices. You'll have to distract shielded enemies to hit them from behind. Gushing geysers can be used to blast higher enemies or swim skyward, and blocks made of sponge can be shot with ink to expand and bridge gaps. The handful of stages we tried wrapped up with a maze-like battle arena that tested us against more mobile and wily enemies. Plus, we weren't able to check it out, but there's also a hub world connecting the entrances to each level. Rather than a simple menu, Splatoon features a central plaza where you can access the different modes, interact with mingling player avatars, or buy new weapons and gear from fanciful aquatic shopkeepers like Annie the Anemone and Sheldon the Horseshoe Crab. Nothing we've seen smells of dead fish, but there are a few matters to keep an eye on. For one, even though the modes and maps we've played have been a blast, we're still unsure how much variety the final game will have to offer. The latest build primarily uses motion control to aim, which takes a little time to get used to, but fear not, as there are plans to include an option for traditional analog controls. Finally, Nintendo is deliberately omitting voice chat, and while it makes sense for those who want to avoid bullying, much of the fun we've had with the game has only been amplified by hearing the cries of joy and pain from other players in a local setting. In all, Splatoon looks to take the established palette of online shooters and mix it all up with its own splash of color. With a truly different sense of design, a distinct feel, and a fantastic look, we're excited to play more this May.